This interview is disseminated on behalf of Angkor Resources Corp. Today we're taking a closer look at Angkor Resources, breaking ground as the first North American publicly traded oil and gas exploration company in Cambodia. I'm joined today by John Koch, a drilling engineer for Angkor. Welcome to the show, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
It's good to have you on, mate. Good to be talking with the engineering technical side of the team. So basically, we understand you're working with Angkor Resources and Enercam team as a drilling supervisor in Cambodia on the Block 8. Can you please share a bit about yourself, the project, and what you're doing with the project with Enercam?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, John. I'm a drilling engineer by background. I'm a petroleum engineer. And after I graduated, I spent 9 years working with Exxon's exploration well division, working worldwide. I spent a couple of years in Thailand and a couple of years in Egypt. After that, after leaving Exxon, I did a whole series of international projects in different places, including Pakistan, India, and quite a bit of work in South America as well. I ended up becoming a project manager and leading teams that do this kind of exact project where we go into a new area and develop and assess and develop a resource. So an example of that was a Canadian public company called Alta Resources. I was responsible for operations there, and between 1996 and 2000, we did a project in Ecuador where we, increased the reserves of the company from 5 million barrels to 210 million barrels.
Okay, so it sounds like you've got a bit of a long history under your belt across multiple different jurisdictions. Can you tell us what attracted you to this project? Like, what's the difference here?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see these kind of projects when you're a drilling specialist, in looking at the geological background and looking at the work that has been done by the company, the project becomes very, very intriguing. The upside is really large, and I think it's a very interesting project on a number of levels. I also have a lot of respect for the Enercam and Angkor team. They've done some really first-class geological work, and I've drilled on a lot of projects that have been developed by geological teams, and this was really impressive. And I have a lot of respect for the management, so that's what motivated me.
Well, yeah, management's, if not as important as the project itself, it's a key fundamental for making a project work. So let's talk about the project specifics here, because as far as I'm aware, it's the first onshore rig that's going to be happening in the country, that's ever been drilled in the country. What do you see as the greatest risk as far as entering this new jurisdiction?
Yeah, so when you go into an area like this, which kind of on some level classifies as what's known as a remote location in the drilling world because of the lack of services and so on, the biggest risk is really simply project execution. So the process of drilling wells and testing them to get a definitive answer on what's in the reservoir or isn't in the reservoir, but to really know the answer at the end is really quite technically difficult. And the greatest risk is an execution risk where you fail to achieve that definitive answer one way or the other.
Are you saying it's kind of like you're pulling the same type of risk rationale from other projects into this? Like, it's not any riskier than other projects you've worked on?
Yeah, I think in some ways it's less risky, given that its location and its proximity to some of the services that are required. I would say there's a fair bit of complexity to this project, but not a great deal of risk on that level. But in doing exploration, there's always a risk of execution and a risk of failing to execute properly. So is what I would see the key risk here.
Okay, sweet. So now we'll move on to running us through how you're going to go about this and kind of the timelines. So can you walk us through the process and also the timelines to drill the well, complete it, and then production test the well?
Sure. So what's happened here? The process the point where we're at in the process now is that we've already identified the sites. So the surface sites where we want to drill have been identified. So the process is to secure access to those sites, which we're in the process of doing, and is not an overly complicated challenge. So at that point, a site is constructed. So we build a pad which is appropriate for the drilling rig that we're using. We move a drilling rig on, and we drill the well. While we're drilling the well, we would evaluate for the geological parameters we're looking for. So there's a number of tools and techniques that we use to look for hydrocarbons and to determine what's there. So when we're finished drilling, we'll have a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with. And so if we like what we see, then what we will do is we complete the well, which means we prepare the well for production, basically. And in this case, what we would do is we would do what's called an extended test. So we complete the well. It's possible that we would stimulate it. We'd have the option of doing that, which is enhancing the flow of hydrocarbons from the reservoir into the well bore. And then we would conduct a test on the well, and the test will define exactly what is in the reservoir and what the reservoir can produce. So it gives you really a definitive answer to go to the next level. And the next level, in terms of production, usually requires significant investment. So it is really important that we get the defined answers.
Okay, understandably, but investors will definitely be wanting to be knowing how long is the time frame between that testing and producing well, ballpark?
Sure. So we have two types of wells here. So we have a shallower one and a deeper one. So the drilling times for the shallow well, we're estimating at about 14 days. And then the deeper wells would be between 40 and 70 days. So it's not an extended period. And then after the wells are drilled, the drilling rig moves off and the production test takes place. And the production test would be about 8 to 12 weeks after the rig leaves. So basically 2 to 3 months. It's not an extended period. If you look at our deepest well, it's 70 days to drill. So, say a month and a half, and then 2 to 3 months for the test.
Okay, so we're looking at maybe Q2.
Yeah, it depends when we start building. So there's still some variables in that. It could be before that, but it depends. And, in Cambodia, you have rainy season as well, which impacts operations in these areas. So, it's always a trade-off between cost and time and the efficiency of execution. So we try to plan our operations to give us the best compromise between, the most cost-effective approach. And we fully understand that we're on a ticking clock. We need to do it as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. So it's not often that we talk to the technical side of the equation here. So I'd just like to pick your brains as far as what excites you most about this from a geological and engineering standpoint compared to other projects you've worked on previously.
Yeah, I think that what's really interesting here is that I would say there's three things. The first is the size of the potential basin. So, in the oil and gas business, in the hydrocarbon business now, you don't typically see large unexplored areas, and this one is very large in terms of in terms of the size of the potential reservoirs. So that's really interesting. The second thing is the proximity to the population and energy demand. So we are in the middle of an area that is really energy starved, and this also very, very unique. We're not 1,500 miles north of anywhere in the middle of the tundra, with no market, no delivery options and those kind of things. So that's really, really interesting. And then the third thing I think is just, the fact that this basin is unexplored. There has not been, any land wells drilled in Cambodia. And I think that combination of three things makes this really, really interesting. And I guess I would add a fourth, which is that I don't think execution in this area is going to be, extremely challenging, because we're in an area where there are, a lot of services. We have access to, the Chinese service market and other existing basins where things are still operating. Whereas, many other places in the world, this kind of work is not being done anymore. So you're starting really from scratch.
Okay, well, it sounds like an extremely exciting time, not just for the company, but even for the country itself. The way you're describing it, and yeah,
it's a potential game changer for the country.
yeah, the flow-on effects economically and socially and all the rest of that will, I'm sure there'll be huge upside here. Well, John, it's been fantastic talking to you today, mate, and we look forward to hearing another update once you're up and running or you've got the pads in place. So thanks for coming on.
That would be great, and come and visit us on the rig when we're drilling in Cambodia.
That sounds fantastic. I'll take you up on that offer. We'll do an interview directly from the rig. How about that?
Yeah, why not?
All right, John. Talk to you soon, mate.
Thank you very much.